Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Again, we're talking about the Health, Wealth, Wellness Summit coming up on April 12th. Now, this summit is for anyone that has anything to do with parenting or anything. Specifically, though, for the track that I'm running, because remember, if you haven't seen these before, there'll be multiple tracks running all day long. So if you look at the 9 o'clock hour, there'll be 5 or 6 different talks that you can go see at any point. The track that I will be hosting is the Mom Empowerment track. So I'm so excited to speak to the moms out there because you know what? It's time to just do something for ourselves. And that's why all of the moms on my track have come together because we want to support you moms. You deserve to take care of yourself, fill your own cup. And so we want to give you some tips, techniques, and things of how to do that. There'll be lots of gifts and giveaways and things to do that along the way. And so I brought Angie with me today, and Angie talks about the kids' big emotions. You know how we get when the kids are having them, and then all of a sudden, like, what do I do? How do I handle this? And then you get all stressed out. So Angie's going to take some of that stress out of it for us. What can you tell us about that, Angie?
Yeah, well, like you said, kids have big emotions, and that typically kind of creates a domino effect in families. So the kids get upset, and then we get upset, and then maybe our partner or other parent gets upset too. And then all of a sudden, you have all these people who are super upset. Everyone's emotions are super high. And everyone's super frustrated and you don't know what to do. And typically what ends up happening when kids have these big emotions is that our first instinct, because it triggers our own emotions, is typically we end up yelling. And then that really leaves us with a whole lot of mom guilt afterwards. And we think, oh my gosh, I'm the worst mom in the world. Why did I do that? I don't want to do that anymore. However, the same thing happens maybe the next day, maybe an hour later, and then you find yourself in the same situation. And so my goal is to really help us understand what's actually happening in the body when these big emotions come up for both our kids and ourselves. And more importantly, how do we handle them? Because that is a key thing that children need to learn at a young age so that they don't have to rewire themselves like most of us adults do as we get older and realize that we've been using a lot of survival coping skills, or I like to call them resources, when there are a lot of healthy, natural ways that we can help deal with those emotions to better express them.
Wow, you just spoke to my heart because that was me. Just always that reaction of just yelling as soon as they do something, right? And then I think back to that time when before, like when it was always like, well, whatever your emotion you're feeling, like you need to hide it and suppress it. And like sometimes that reaction comes in me like, oh, it's not that big of a deal to telling it to my 6-year-old who have to reframe. And I'm sure this is one thing we work on is that you have to think about for a 6-year-old, she's only had 6 years of life. This is huge. I don't know how you speak to that one.
Absolutely. No, you hit it completely on the head right there, is that a lot of the times when we grew up, even if we had a great childhood, I had a wonderful childhood. My parents are very loving and supportive and provided so many things for me. And I still heard the things like, why are you so upset right now? It's not a big deal. Don't cry about that. Why are you so scared? And so when we hear these little messages when we're kids, it starts teaching us to not really listen to our intuition or our emotions that our bodies are giving us lots of cues for. And so what we do is we do suppress it. And then again, we shove them down. We don't know how to express them. And then when they come up later on in life, it's really uncomfortable. So we don't really know how to handle them. And for kids, you're exactly right. Like just because they think that they didn't get the blue cup, it's the biggest deal in the world to us when we have so many other stresses going on with the world and just our life and work and all those other things, is we think it isn't that big a deal. Like grab the green cup. What does it matter? But again, to them, their little human bodies, that is their whole world right now. They don't have to worry about going to work and grocery shopping and taxi running and finances and all that stuff. Like this is their world. So even if we don't think it's that big a deal, we do need to start validating our kids' feelings. So again, they can really start nurturing them and understand how to express them safely and more effective ways versus shoving them down. Because a lot of times what happens when kids get angry, for example, is they want to hit or they want to throw. And I think anger, it gets labeled as this bad emotion when we really just need to start setting boundaries and guidelines around how to express it for our kids. And so that's the way they only understand how to get that energy out. And what we can do is redirect it into more safe and healthy resources to still help them express it and kind of ride the wave of the emotion without having to suppress it.
I think I just pictured my daughter right now, my 6-year-old. That's her first reaction, is that she starts like getting in her sister's face, or she starts getting her brother's face, and then she starts hitting and kicking, or even us. So what I'm sure there's a lot of other moms that, so how should I start to redirect that?
Yeah. So again, I think when we talk more about like this gentle parenting, proactive parenting, conscious parenting, whatever you want to call it, there's so many different terms out there right now. I think a lot of people have this misconception that when your child does something like hit, you're not allowed to tell them that that's not okay. That's not what this type of parenting is. It's validating and say, hey, I understand you're really upset right now, and we don't use our body to hit other people. And so like with my kids is we have 3 rules when it comes to anger. 1, you cannot harm yourself. 2, you cannot harm others. And 3, you cannot harm property that's not meant to be harmed. Like if you have a pillow or something and they want to hit it, great, go for it. Like take it out on that pillow, scream into that pillow, like jump up and down if you want to. So we just need to start redirecting them of what's okay and what's not okay. And we can do that in a more gentle approach. And then when we learn the tools too, is that instead of getting super angry when your daughter gets angry and then your emotions really skyrocket, we can kind of use our own resources to keep us in that calm emotional state, because 2 people at a high emotional state are not going to get anywhere. If your daughter's angry and you're angry, it's like brick wall meets brick wall, right? Like no communication is going to be happening there. So again, you can validate that, yes, I understand you are really upset right now and we don't hit other people. Would you like to try fill in the blank with another type of way to express it?
Well, I also just loved your rules with the self-harm, because I feel like that's also with the kids. Like, well, okay, if I can't hit someone else, I'm just going to hit myself. Exactly. And I feel like, and I've been working on that. And then the next thing that I want to ask you about, since I got you on camera, is the next step that she goes is, well, I'm so dumb. And like, so that's the response, like, because like I'm using the skills to say like, well, that's not how we do it. She's like, well, then I'm just so dumb. I shouldn't have done that. And I was like, you're not. So I'm curious how to reword that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a typical response from kids, right? And again, kids are little sponges too. And I don't know the type of, conversations you have like for your self-talk around your kids or anything like that. But a lot of the times when my kids say something, if I just sit there and pause for a second, I'm like, ooh, did they hear that from me? Or did they get that assumption by something that I'm doing? So this is something that we have to work with my son a lot with too, is just kind of this, all of a sudden we go into this negative self-talk right away. So again, you can validate her by saying, I understand you're upset, and we all get upset. You are so bright and capable of finding other ways to express your anger. So we just really need to reword it again and try get away from that negativity and shed it in a more positive light, because us as parents, we don't get manuals when we leave the hospital. We get a big bill, but we don't get anything else. It's like, good luck. Like, hopefully you can keep these humans alive. And so we need to understand that kids don't have a manual for their emotions either, that they're really looking at us on how we express ours. And that's what they kind of think is okay on how to express theirs. And other times there's just so much energy in their body. That's the first instinct, is they just want to hit something or throw something. And so again, just kind of reminding with that positivity of like, you're smart and I know that you can figure out another way to express yourself, but it does take practice and it takes repetition, because sometimes those cognitive disorders that we all have, which our brain is just playing tricks on us, we like to go into that negative self-talk or kind of that all or nothing thinking. We just need to start on reworking it. And I mean, we could get more into that as far as like trying to find evidence and challenging those thoughts and things like that. But for a child at a younger age, it's just really important to redirect the conversation so we're not focused on the negativity and we kind of spin it into a more positive light.
It's funny when you said to think about where the self-talk and stuff like that, then I also realized a lot of it's coming from the older siblings, because they've been feeding off of each other. And I see that, because I mean, we've been working this so much that I feel like, and sometimes I feel like they're almost doing it intentional, because they know that like just to get my goat. And they're like, I'm just dumb then, even though like, we've been doing all that, but I feel like they know how to just push your buttons. And it's like, so I've been just walking away a little bit more and then coming back when I'm ready. And I feel I'm a huge my mom feel guilty about that, but I like wanted to point that out too to everyone. Like, it's okay to do that, because we need to recollect ourselves. It's better to recollect ourselves and go back with that positive, or at least because sometimes when you walk away for a minute, I'm like, oh, that's what I can do differently. Versus just trying to fix it right then and there, because when they're not ready to listen. And with my middle daughter, she'll just go off in a huff. I've just kind of ignored it almost at this point, like, because 20 minutes later she'll be ready to talk about it. I'm like, okay, I'm here to talk now if you're ready.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And we do that a lot. I mean, I have twins. I have 8-year-old twins. So, I mean, they have never been without each other, which can be really great in a lot of situations. And then in other situations, it's not always so great. And there's fighting and there's bickering and there's she said this, he said that. And a lot of the times I don't step in, is I kind of guide them to, you guys can communicate. You have great words that you can say to each other. How can you figure this out between yourselves? Because it's really important for us to start developing those skills in our children too, on how to deal with conflict, whether it's that they do need to step away, because I step away all the time. I'll say, you know what, I'm getting really frustrated and I need a few minutes by myself before we talk about this. And really teaching them those really important life skills too, because we're not always going to be around. So what's going to happen when they're older and they come into conflict or they have an argument or something at work happens and we're not sitting at their desk with them? They're going to need these life skills in order how to effectively and clearly communicate what they need in that moment.
Well, you just remind me of a really good thing is when now my brain just went blank, of course. But I was just thinking when that was what it was. When they're arguing, it's almost that impulse to step in right away. And I've almost had to just put my hands up here and brace myself and say, you know what? Give it 2 or 3 minutes before I jump in, because maybe that we've gone through all this stuff and it's to the point where it's like, okay, I can't always jump in. And so you're like a earshot away to make sure they're not about to beat each other up.
Yeah.
But bracing yourself that you don't need to jump straight in there. Is that correct in what I'm doing?
Yeah, exactly. Because for us moms, especially, that's what we do. We're the fixers, right? We're the ones who take care of everything. We want to jump in. We want to handle it right away, or at least that's what I am. And I learned through my own personal story that I was always an overfunctioner. So if anything happened bad, whether it was with my husband, with our family, with our kids, I was the first one to be like, okay, I'll just fix it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do A, B, and C. And that was just really, again, kind of a trauma response, so that I didn't have to sit in those feelings, because again, they're uncomfortable. But definitely being able to kind of just let them do their thing for a little bit. And you're right, stay in earshot. So nothing, we're not violating any of those anger rules, or nothing's escalating too far. But really helping them, again, just kind of find that self-confidence to try figure out conflict and try to resolve it themselves, and not feeling bad that we're not going in and fixing it. And that's a big thing that I actually talk about a lot, is that this whole concept of lawnmower parents is, and I don't remember if we talked about that on the podcast or not, but it's really this term that tells, parents try to mow out every single obstacle. They're the ones to step in all of a sudden if anything goes wrong. They don't want to see their kids suffer. They don't want to see them go through hardship. None of us parents do. Let's be honest. We want our kids to be happy and thriving. However, there's negative effects of that, because again, they don't know how to handle those situations later on in life, and they don't have a good suffering muscle, which can lead to a lot of drastic behaviors, including self-harm in some cases, because they don't understand what's happening, especially in their body, and they don't know how to express it correctly.
Oh my God, you just spoke to everything. Because it's so true that we just need to guide them in this, and not the helicopter or the lawnmowering parent who just tries to solve everything. But on that note, now you're gonna have to come check out the summit, because Angie has so much more wisdom to share with us on April 12th, Health Wellness Summit. Again, the links are in the comment. Go ahead and register. It's completely free. There are no recordings. But if you do want, and you can't make the whole day and you do want, there are VIP packages that do allow you to pay for the recordings. But either way, the event is completely free, and you can go in and out as you need throughout the day and come see the ones you want. You'll get a whole schedule and see who you want to come. But I recommend coming and check out Angie, and I'll be hosting the Mom Empowerment Track, and we can't wait to see you there. Any last words for us, Angie?
No, I'm excited to be a part of the summit, and I hope you all can attend and watch the different tracks, because I know there's going to be so much valuable information.
Can't wait to see you guys there, and have a good afternoon.